There's a lot of talk in the personal development community about the need for good leadership. And this is something I feel I've got a bit of a different take on. I personally am not looking for leaders in most areas of my life. Now, this might be partly because of my age, because I'm already quite a confident person, and because I've also been a self-learner. A lot of my life I've studied and motivated myself and been my own leader in some ways. But beyond that, there's something about the power dynamic of followers and leaders that I just don't like. I prefer autonomy. I prefer independence. Now, the trouble with that is, if you went down that road, took it to its extreme, you'd be like, no one can share knowledge with anyone because they're all just autonomous beings, and what's the point? What's the point of following anyone? I know it all already. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is there's a difference between a guide and a leader. And I'm much more interested in the role of guide than I am of leader. So for example, say I want to cross the Himalayas and I've never done it before. I'll look for a guide. I'm not necessarily looking for a leader, someone that's going to tell me what to do and tell me how I should behave and what my values should be and all this kind of stuff. I just want someone that knows the territory better than I do to share their experience, their knowledge with me. And I think this is a real issue, because what can happen with leadership is that the domain within which the leader is qualified and has more experience than other people is limited. But very often what happens is they then extend their authority beyond that domain into areas where they're not so knowledgeable. Now, apparently this happened on a famous Mount Everest expedition that they made a film about, where I can't remember any of the names, but the idea is that the main leader, he took too much authority and he didn't listen to the people that knew about the weather, like the pilots that could understand what was going on with the weather, and that they were in real trouble. And he didn't listen to the people that said this and said that, because he was the leader, and he actually gave a speech at the beginning, do not question my orders, I am the leader. And there's this idea that our survival depends on this subordination to a superior authority. And I would argue that in some situations precisely the opposite is true, and in fact subordination is downright dangerous. And the culture, the kind of learned habit of that over time, where we have these kind of submissive relationships to authorities, can be deadly. Another example was it's in a book called Black Box Thinking, where there was a pilot, a totally lost sense of time because he's in crisis, and the engineer saying, "Captain, my captain, we have no fuel." And he didn't have the confidence. It was so out of rank to say to the pilot, "You've got to bloody listen to me because we're going to crash if you don't," that everyone in the plane died because he didn't have the culture wasn't such that it was okay to challenge your superiors in that situation, to such an extent that someone would actually give up their life rather than do that. Another result of this, they developed a thing called crew resource management, where there are protocols for overriding hierarchies, which I think is a really good idea, because there's some situations where the person in charge is just wrong. They don't have all the information, and if you're just going to do their bidding, then you're just, it's just a terrible idea. So for me, leadership, I'm not looking for it. I'm looking for guides if there's a certain area that I want to explore that I don't know about. But beyond that, I'm looking for the companionship of equal, independent, autonomous human beings that don't feel the need to kind of snap into these submissive or dominant relationships, because it's just, for me, that's no fun. It's like, come on, it's like, let's just be brothers here. Can we just be equals and chill, without this constant need to, like, I'm the leader, follow me. I just find it a real pain. And obviously this is just, kind of light-hearted and kind of personal take on it, but obviously in wider society there's some real serious issues with this. People who have power don't necessarily have the qualification to use that power well, and certainly don't necessarily know the territory better than the people on the ground who know it better, and might make far better decisions. So that's my little spiel about leadership versus guides.